Okay, here we are, 9:54 a.m., walking to the speech, which we were told would be held at 11. This video is recorded at the corner of 15th Street Northwest and Constitution Ave. I was trying to get a good capture on the size of the crowd. Let's pull up a map here. Okay, so this is where we were, and Trump was speaking somewhere inside of the ellipse there. I'm not sure if it was more towards the center or if it was kind of more towards the bottom of that circle there. At no point did we have any chance of getting anywhere near that. And with that, I'll take the opportunity to put an overlay over the screen, which was posted on marchfortrump.com. Showing where the event was to be held, and I'm glad I took this picture. I knew it was suspicious, and it's since been taken down. I don't know how they planned to have the event here. There was absolutely, you could fit maybe 30,000 people there, was guesstimated. Point being, both previous MAGA rallies were way larger. They would have never fit there. Anyone could have seen that, and everyone knew that this one was going to be so much larger. So I don't know if that was oversight or what, but that was not going to happen. That's how I knew I wasn't concerned with the Secret Service security check-in, because they said, yeah, like, you're going to check every single person there in at that one event. So I had my knives, I had self-defense, and we had backpacks, all of which potentially or theoretically weren't allowed, but that was not a problem. So this video shows where we ended up standing for the entire speech, waiting for it and until its completion. This was taken at 10:04 a.m. and you can kind of judge based on the location of the buildings about how far we had traveled, a couple hundred feet maybe. Keep in mind that it did take us 10 minutes, as you can see, just to move that short distance because of all the people that were there. And the only reason we stopped is because we hit a crowd of people where passing through was not possible. So that's going to be important. Keep that in mind. This video was recorded at 11:51 a.m. I got bored waiting for Trump. He was an hour late, obviously, at this point. Just getting a little frustrated, a little bored. I ended up taping my phone to the end of my flagpole to try to get a better shot, and I'm glad I did. You can see, compared to the last video at 10, how much more colored in it is with people. Way more people, so we were pretty committed at this point. If we were to leave, there would be no chance of us even having a hope of hearing anything he had to say. So we were committed at this point. I was about to call it and leave. I'm glad I didn't, because right after I recorded this is when it started. But this just goes to show you just how many people were there. It looks like it's stretched all the way to the side streets. Little funny note, just to go back to the poor planning idea that was here. One of the popular chants in the crowd was turn it up, because even where we were, I could only hear about half of what he was saying. Sometimes if the crowd would quiet down a little bit, it would be easier to hear, but most of the time, all you just heard was the sea of people. So Trump spoke for about an hour. It was typical MAGA rally stuff, going over accomplishments and election fraud, evidence and anomalies and such. Little over an hour, and at the end of it is when he called for everyone to go down to the Capitol building, which occurred at 1:11 p.m., and I stole the clip of that from RSBN. Hopefully they won't mind, but if you haven't seen that, here's the whole thing unedited.
Have not yet begun. My fellow Americans, for our movement, for our children, and for our beloved country, and I say this despite all that's happened, the best is yet to come. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything. Not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This video was recorded at 1:12 p.m., literally 1 minute after Trump had finished speaking. I wanted to show the size of the crowd all trying to move at once, but everything was going very slowly. There was trucks blocking the roads, there was people selling their products with tables, and then people on the outskirts obviously hadn't heard him because we were back there and we could hardly hear him. They kind of got the idea, but the point is, it was very slow. The street was completely packed, and I'm a very brisk walker and I'm a very impatient person, so there was no way I was going to waddle for an hour just to get over and wave my flag down there. So at this point I decided to head up north, up 15th, the way we had came, and then we were also going to go look for some food at that point. So this is where things start to get interesting with the timestamps. On the map here is the location at which the next video I'll show was recorded at 1:27, so more than 10 minutes, again right around the same amount of distance, just bumper to bumper people, very hard to move. And like I said, that wasn't even the main way which most people were headed down to the Capitol building, and it still took us that long. So the video is actually of a street drummer banging out on some buckets and pans, and it's pretty cool, so I'll play that with audio. Buckets to go through. This next video was recorded at Freedom Plaza here at 1:31 p.m. so a little more than 3 minutes to get around the corner. As you saw in the last video, it's starting to open up a little bit. You can walk a little bit faster, so this is where we had made it by then.
Oh yeah, he's fighting. That is an American.
This video I took from the New York Times' website, and you can see at the top it's about 1:21 p.m. So before we even got to the street drummer, there was already a lot of people outside of the Capitol building. There's people pushing, climbing on top of stuff, and they had no way of knowing that Trump had told us all to go down here. Good time to point out, there was no cell service from 10 to, I think we got some around 2 p.m. because we had gotten very far away from everyone. I personally had 2 smartphones on me, an Apple and a Samsung, both of which said they had service but weren't able to load anything. I wasn't able to even get a thumbnail on YouTube, and I had 2 people with me, and both of their phones were not able to get any internet service. So no way these people down here had known that Trump had told us all to go down here. Next on the map is where we had made it by 1:55 p.m. and pretty much after Freedom Plaza we were free to move as quickly as we could, and like I said, I was hungry and I'm a quick walker, and that's as far as we were able to go. I only know that because I took a picture of a building. Next is where we were a little bit after 2. We had obviously walked a short distance and ordered some food, sat down at a restaurant, and while we were waiting for the food, we were going on the internet, and at that point there was already pictures being posted of people inside the building. So for contrast, going back to the New York Times video, you can see it's approximately 1:56 p.m. at the time when they had broken through the second line of defense, which was a small barricade they had set up around with police lined up behind it. The first line of defense was a short fence around the lawn outside the Capitol building, which stood no chance. You could have leaned into that and the thing would have collapsed. So obviously that was overrun hours before this point, but at 2 p.m. is the time that they breached the second line, which was that barricade there. The point I'm getting at, if you haven't figured out, is there's no way that any person who had heard Trump say to go to the Capitol could have possibly made it there by the time the breach had happened. You can see the path that they would have had to take, which admittedly is shorter than the path that it took me to reach the restaurant at 1:55 p.m., but that's where everyone was headed. Some people had gone north and then gone down Pennsylvania Avenue like Trump said, but most people just headed straight east. You knew that that was the easiest way to get there, or at least the most direct, as you could see the building as soon as you walked a short distance down that street. So the bad actors that were there were not there at the direction of the president. That's enough speculation. The main point of this video is just to show you what I saw and what I was able to capture. So this video was taken at 2:51 p.m. After eating, we had decided we'd already missed, the main happening. So we kind of rested for a minute before we headed down here. So this is walking up to the Capitol building. You can see here, and you'll notice it's a main point in the rest of the clips. Everyone's kind of looking in the same direction because it's quite a spectacle to see the inauguration stage filled with people when they're not supposed to be up there, all waving their flags and everything. At this point, 3:07 p.m., I had reached the inauguration stage and the scaffolding around it, and I knew I was going to climb on top, so I wanted to get a little shot of that first bit there. That's where I ended up climbing up. Here we have some shots from on top of the scaffolding before I had made it to the inauguration stage, which you can see right there. I believe that's where one of the main breaches had occurred. I'll show you the door in just a second, where the police were. I just want to show you a couple of these with audio so you can kind of get a vibe. Here we have a still that just barely shows that doorway that at one point earlier was breached, but at this time there's about 40 police officers standing as close together as possible, just using their masks to stop the people from forcing their way in. There were some people that were doing a heave-ho, I'd guess like 20 or 30 maybe, trying to all go together and use their momentum to push past them, but the time I was up there they weren't able to defeat that line of police, so I don't think that had happened. And also right behind the American flag there, I didn't get a video of it, but that's where one of the infamous quote hammer guys was. He was standing there with his back to the window, and he would kind of look around a little shadily, and then he pulled out a sledgehammer and he was bashing the window in. He probably got maybe 3 swings off before the crowd pulled him down. I also saw another guy with his back up against a piece of painted plywood, part of the inauguration stage, and he had a much smaller hammer, more carpentry style hammer, and same thing with his back towards it. Without looking at what he was doing, he was swinging the hammer and hitting the plywood, seeing if he could cause some destruction without people stopping him, which also did happen to him. But the point I'm making is everyone here was making it a point to be overwhelmingly peaceful. And anytime someone did something like this, the crowd did whatever they could to stop them. However, there's really not much they could do. You couldn't grab the person and hand them to the police, even if there was an officer even 20 feet away. There was no way you're going to get that person over there. You didn't want to harm them, start all kinds of violence and everything like that. So we were pretty screwed as far as stopping the bad actors. And that's pretty much all I've got. I'll just end it on this blurry video here of the only sort of violence which we witnessed. It was a group of white people and a group of black people, and everyone's calling each other a racist, and I don't really know what happened other than everyone was trying to pull it apart. They didn't really want to see anyone get hurt, and ultimately it dissipated. Nobody got hurt, and they just kind of walked away flipping each other off.